On the third day of dealing with tooth pain, I visited the dental clinic my colleague recommended. The clinic was calm and peaceful, with state-of-the-art equipment and friendly staff. Even though the doctor was handsome, everything was perfect. If only he weren't my ex, though. I lay back in the chair, staring at his face. Even with a mask on, his good looks were still obvious, and my heart couldn't help but race. We went through the checkup, the X-rays, and the explanation. Nathan spoke in his usual calm, professional manner, like he didn't recognize me at all. He finally said, "Impacted tooth, gum inflammation, I recommend extraction." I nodded. "All right, then. Go ahead and pull it." He bent down to write something, but then paused, looking back up at me. "How did your teeth get so worn down?" It seemed like a genuine concern from a doctor for his patient. But the cool, indifferent version of him now was almost exactly like the serious, composed version I remembered from school, making it hard not to tease him. I couldn't resist. "Well, without you, I've been just gritting my teeth all these years." "Is that so?" he said, his eyes lowering, his lashes fluttering gently like the wings of a butterfly. After a long pause, he shifted back to the topic at hand. "Then why did we break up in the first place?" I didn't have a good answer, so I just fell silent. 2 hours after my tooth extraction, Nathan took off his mask and gently reminded me, "Don't eat anything for the next 3 hours, don't rinse or brush your teeth for 24 hours, keep your diet light, and come back next week to have the stitches removed." I nodded obediently and asked, "Anything else I need to watch out for?" "Don't bite with that side. And definitely don't lick it with your tongue." He paused, looked at me, then added, "If it hurts a lot, you can take one ibuprofen." I nodded, ready to ask more, but he casually tapped the wall beside us where post-extraction care instructions were displayed. I instantly quieted down. He slid his hands into the pockets of his white coat, looking a bit smug as he said, "Your teeth are so worn down. Don't just grit your teeth and tough it out anymore." I walked out of the clinic, still feeling a little dazed. When I discussed it with my best friend, she was just as puzzled. "Is this the same Nathan I know?" I totally agreed. Nathan and I went to the same high school, but were in different classes. He was the charming heartthrob, while I was just a regular, unnoticed girl. I watched countless girls fall head over heels for him. He got so many love letters, it could fill a sack, and his admirers could circle the school a dozen times. But Nathan never looked at a single one of them. Naturally, a guy that smart, good-looking, and well-connected made my heart race a little. But I knew my place and never planned to chase after him blindly. Until we both ended up at the same university, with everything falling into place, I couldn't help but let those feelings come alive again. I pursued Nathan for a full year with everything I had. I'm not sure if he lowered his guard in college, or if I just got lucky, but I actually won him over. We dated for 6 months. And then I broke up with him. It was mostly because we weren't a good match. He was too serious, to the point where it didn't even feel like we were in a relationship. I had to initiate everything, holding hands, hugging, kissing. He wasn't good at expressing himself and kept everything bottled up. At first, it wasn't so bad, but over time, it became too much. I just wanted a light, easy relationship. Not one where I felt trapped by invisible emotional chains. So, I ended things. Nathan took the breakup in stride. No questions, no pleading. And honestly, he didn't even seem upset. I guess Nathan wasn't that into me either, and that was fine. After all, I was the one who pursued him first, and I was the one who let go. If he had been really invested, I would have looked like the bad guy. His attitude made it easy for me to move on from the relationship. We hadn't been in touch since we broke up, until today. His remark, "Don't grit your teeth and tough it out," really caught me off guard. Was this really the Nathan I knew, the cool, distant guy? My best friend, ever the gossip, asked, "Charlotte, if Nathan started pursuing you again, would you say yes?" First of all, he won't pursue me, I said. Then smiled and added, secondly, I wouldn't say yes. Why not? I'll admit, I really like his type. Seeing his face today, I was definitely moved. I thought for a moment and told her, but also reminded myself, but the reason I like the cold, distant type is because I want to see him fall from his pedestal and go wild for me, not like Nathan, who. I gave a brief verdict. He makes me question my own charm. You don't need to doubt it. You charmed 3 guys today, she said. They asked for your contact info. Are you giving it to them? No. Well, the high school reunion is this Friday. Everyone from the school in Lynn City will be there. Are you going? Nathan? He probably won't go. He doesn't strike me as someone who would attend a reunion, my friend said. Plus, I don't think anyone knows he's in Lynn City now. You're right. I nodded, I'll go. Turns out, you really shouldn't speak too confidently. When Nathan pushed open the door to the reunion, the entire room went dead silent. Mike, the organizer, was the first to snap back to reality. He walked over, slung an arm around Nathan's shoulder, and said, since Nathan's in Lynn City, I invited him to join us. Let's all give him a warm welcome, shall we? Welcome. Welcome. The cheers got louder and louder. The purpose of this reunion was to catch up, gossip, and maybe sing a little for fun. But as soon as Nathan walked in, all focus shifted to gossiping about him. Nathan was so mysterious that everyone was dying to know more. Someone suggested playing a game. The rules were simple, everyone takes turns saying something, and if anyone in the room is mentioned, they have to drink. The first person's statement immediately escalated the tension. I've had a crush on someone here. I thought about the times I'd chased Nathan around back then and silently raised my glass. Just as I was about to take a sip, Nathan suddenly stopped my wrist. Everyone's eyes went wide, watching the drama unfold. Nathan spoke calmly, you just had a tooth pulled. You shouldn't drink. He scanned the room and said coolly, I'm her doctor. It's my responsibility. I'll drink on her behalf tonight. With that, he took my glass and downed it in one go. The room instantly relaxed, and someone joked, you nearly scared me to death. I thought those two were dating. My best friend elbowed me frantically, her eyes filled with curiosity, asking me what exactly was going on. I whispered, it's just his professional ethics. A few more rounds went by, and I skillfully dodged being called out. But Nathan, on the other hand, was clearly the center of attention. He drank several more glasses of wine as everyone probed him for gossip. Then came the next round. I've dated someone here. A shy couple from high school nervously picked up their glasses, exchanged a look, and slowly drank amid the teasing and laughter. I joined in teasingly but wasn't worried. After all, I'd only dated Nathan during university, and it had only lasted 6 months. None of our high school classmates knew, so this drink wasn't anything I needed to worry about. But Nathan clearly wasn't trying to avoid it. After the couple put their glasses down, Nathan picked up his and drank it all in one go. Everyone was stunned, staring at him. I was a little stunned too. But I knew that as long as I didn't drink, no one would know who Nathan had dated. Nathan, calm as ever, poured himself another glass. He raised it and drank it all in one go. All eyes slowly shifted from Nathan to me. After all, everyone knew that it was his drink, not mine. The room was so quiet, you could hear a pin drop. One after another, people started asking, Summer, what's going on here? I couldn't handle the pressure anymore, so I confessed, we did date for a while. But we broke up. Wow. A few girls gasped, and the guys had surprised looks on their faces too. I steeled myself and added, it was back in university. The room turned their gaze from me to Nathan, and their shock was nearly impossible to describe. Suddenly, I was the center of attention, and I felt completely out of place. Without thinking, I glanced at the culprit. Nathan was still sitting calmly, his head slightly lowered, absently tracing the rim of his empty glass. He looked stunning in a crisp light blue shirt, dark gray pants, his long legs slightly cramped under the table. The colorful lights from the room flickered across his face, making him seem like he belonged to another world entirely. Then, suddenly, he looked up and met my eyes. For a brief moment, he froze, then quickly looked away and asked, "Aren't you playing anymore?" Yeah. "We'll keep playing," someone chimed in, "let's go." The game was back on. But from this point on, the questions clearly shifted to gossiping about our secret relationship. I'd been dumped while dating. Several people raised their glasses, and Nathan quickly followed suit, drinking along with them. Someone pointed out, "If you're drinking for summer, you need to say so first." "No," Nathan replied with a casual smile. "I was the one who got dumped." The room went silent for the third time. Everyone's eyes were on me. Admiration, confusion, curiosity, and disbelief. Every look had the same meaning. "You dumped Nathan?" I coughed awkwardly and said, "I was young and reckless. I'd been kissed while dating. I was the one who took the initiative. I was the one who made the first move." Round after round, they quickly unraveled the story of my and Nathan's relationship. Nathan kept drinking, one glass after another. His tolerance seemed pretty high after all that, his eyes were still sharp. Finally, it was his turn. His voice was a little hoarse as he said, "I'm single right now." With that, he drank a glass of wine, as if leading by example. A round of teasing erupted. Everyone turned to look at me, clearly thinking Nathan was testing my feelings. Nathan asked, "Need me to drink for you?" There was a slight redness to his eyes, and his whole demeanor had shifted into something almost flirtatious, making it feel like he was purposely teasing me. My heart skipped a beat. I muttered to myself, when did Nathan get so good at flirting? Had the awkward, clueless guy finally caught on? I remembered how, back then, he couldn't even drink for me, let alone know how to respond when I kissed him. "Drink?" he asked again, his voice tight. "Go ahead," I replied. He smiled a little, almost pleased, and downed the drink. After what happened earlier, everyone started thinking Nathan might have feelings for me. My best friend thought the same and urged me to seize the moment. I didn't buy it. It didn't make sense. Nathan had everything. Why would he still be hung up on me? I'm not one to overthink or play guessing games, so when Nathan dropped me off at home, I asked directly, "What are you trying to say?" Nathan stopped, his gaze lowering, eyes shadowed with uncertainty. I asked, "Do you want to get back together?" He replied, "Don't you want to?" I was completely caught off guard. When did I ever? Nathan sighed deeply, and his words came out strained, "You've been getting by all these years without me." Suddenly, it clicked. I almost said, "You're just messing with me," but when I saw Nathan's face, I couldn't bring myself to say it. He realized, "Are you playing with me again?" I defended myself, "What do you mean again?" He said, "Wasn't it you who chased after me, got me, and then dumped me after just 6 months? You just wanted something new, didn't you? You didn't value me once you had me. The time we dated wasn't even as long as the time you spent chasing me." His words were full of hurt, and I was left speechless. I never knew Nathan felt this way. When we broke up, he seemed so indifferent, like it didn't matter to him at all. But now, when he brought it up, there was bitterness in his voice. But no matter what, I had to admit I was in the wrong. I took a deep breath and said, "I was wrong back then." Seeing the hurt in his eyes, I added, "And I'm wrong now. I shouldn't have joked about you like that. Sorry." I softened my tone. Nathan stayed silent for a long time before sighing. "Let's go. I'll take you home." That night, he didn't say another word. I think I must have upset him. He misunderstood me, misread my intentions, all because of one joke. If I were him, I wouldn't want to talk to me either. Before I knew it, It was time to get my stitches removed. I arrived at the hospital, and the same cheerful receptionist greeted me, leading me to Nathan's office. Nathan was sitting behind his desk, barely glancing at me. "You're here." "Hello," I responded. His tone was all business, just like the first time I came to see him. He was pretending not to know me, acting like we were strangers. He stood up, his face serious. "Follow me." I realized I was being a bit mischievous. The more Nathan tried to be distant and formal, the more I wanted to tease him. But clearly, now wasn't the right time. Nathan was quick to misunderstand if I joked around, so it was better to stay quiet. After removing the stitches, Nathan gave me some instructions: the wound's healing well. Just keep to light food these next few days, avoid spicy or greasy food. And definitely no alcohol. "I know." I mimicked his tone, politely bowed, and said, "Thanks, doctor. If that's all, I'll be going now." "Wait," he called after me. "What's up?" He hesitated, looking a little uncomfortable. "Why are you talking like that?" I replied, "Wasn't it you who wanted to keep your distance from me?" "I didn't." He quickly clarified, but then fell silent again. I decided to stay where I was and wait to see what he would say next. After a long silence, as if giving up, Nathan finally spoke, "Let's get back together." For a second, I wondered if I had misheard. But Nathan repeated himself seriously, "So, what do you think about getting back together?" "Why?" I asked. I really couldn't make sense of this as him liking me. Could Nathan like me? Back when we were dating, his feelings weren't exactly obvious. And after all this time with no contact, the idea of getting back together felt like a far-off dream. He paused before replying, "I just can't get over the fact that you broke up with me." He said, "For the past few years, I've spent countless nights lying awake, wondering why you broke up with me. I kept asking myself what I did wrong to make you treat me like this. No one has ever treated me like this. Did you think it was funny to play with me? Did you enjoy watching me lose sleep over you?" I was in complete shock. I never imagined that my foolish actions had turned me into Nathan's unrequited first love. He said, "Give me a chance to show you who I really am. And then when I fall for you, are you going to dump me again?" He smiled and said, "No, I won't dump you. You'll be the one to decide when it ends." He asked once more, "So, is that okay?" At that moment, I had to admit how hard it was to resist Nathan's looks. Just seeing him standing there in his white coat, messy hair falling over his forehead, and hearing him ask so softly, "Is that okay?" It was almost enough to make me say yes right away. I tried to talk him out of it. "We broke up because you never said anything and kept making me guess. It was exhausting." I said, "If we start up again like this, it'll probably just be exhausting again." I looked at him. "And when we break up again, you'll just accuse me of playing with you." "It won't happen." He was calm, "I'm ready for whatever this time." "You can do whatever you want." He added. "You can play as much as you like, I won't stop you." Walking out of the hospital, I was still in a bit of a daze. What was supposed to be a simple stitch removal ended up with me no longer being single. Everything had happened so fast, it didn't feel real. I called my best friend. The first thing I said when she answered was, "I'm in a relationship." "With who?" "Nathan." She screamed, then excitedly said, "I knew it." Who was it that said he didn't like you, that being with him would make her doubt her own charm? I quietly protested, "I don't think he likes me." I was more convinced that Nathan just couldn't accept being dumped by me. The thing about handsome guys like Nathan is that when they fall, they always get back up. If he doesn't like you and still wants to be with you, then he's lying, my best friend teased. So, has he finally stepped down from his pedestal? I bit my lip, then said the real reason I couldn't refuse: he actually told me I could play with him. With that face of his, telling me I could have all the fun I wanted, I don't think anyone could turn that down. In that moment, the only thing in my head was if I don't play, I'm not even a woman. My best friend was so eager to dig into this gossip that she called me back to the office during my holiday. After chattering away for most of the morning, she patted me on the shoulder with satisfaction and declared that Nathan was definitely into me. I still didn't buy it, though, because in her world, 9 out of 10 men were apparently interested in me. We had lunch at the office, and in the afternoon, with some free time on my hands, I decided to go through some client files. This matchmaking business is something my best friend and I run together. It was her idea. Back in school, she always loved playing matchmaker, and she dreamed of getting into this line of work. She enjoyed the challenge of connecting two strangers with nothing but her persuasive words. I didn't quite get the appeal, but as long as she was happy, I supported her. Originally, I was just an investor, but as business picked up, she got overwhelmed, so I left my previous job and joined the matchmaking team. But I'm not nearly as capable as she is. Most of the time, I'm behind the scenes, handling client communications and logistics. I was working through the files until 5 in the afternoon, then stretched and shut down my computer, ready to leave. As soon as I stepped out of the office, I spotted Lily, our new employee, eagerly pulling Nathan into filling out client forms at a round table in the corner of the lobby. Nathan was polite, distant, but also carried a hint of his usual arrogance. I smiled and walked over, tapping the table and saying, "This is my boyfriend." Lily immediately looked at me with admiration. I'd seen that look plenty of times before. Every time I introduced Nathan as my boyfriend, I realized I must be a little vain, because honestly, I kind of enjoyed it. Nathan stood up, extended his hand, and said seriously, "Hello, I'm Nathan." "Hello," Lily said, shaking his hand. As we got into Nathan's car, I finally remembered to ask, "Did you come all the way here just to pick me up?" "Yeah," he said. "It's not far from the hospital." I casually replied. "It is close. A colleague recommended your hospital to me, saying there was a really handsome dentist. I didn't expect it to be you. Would you still have come if you knew it was me?" he asked. That was a tricky question. If I had known the dentist was Nathan from the start, I probably would have gone somewhere else. But now that we were rekindling things, I didn't mind at all. I didn't answer. But luckily, Nathan didn't press for an answer. He then asked, "Why do I see your picture in the client files?" I laughed, saying, "Sunny thought it would help attract clients." Nathan's expression was hard to read. I guessed, based on experience, you don't mind, do you? "Yeah, a little," he admitted. "Can you take it down? Now that you're my girlfriend. It makes me jealous." I was shocked. Nathan had never admitted to being jealous before. Back in college, a senior had been chasing me hard, and everyone knew about it. When Nathan found out, he didn't say a word, but one day, he suddenly pulled me into a corner and kissed me for 10 minutes. After that, he sent me to a meeting, and I could see the senior staring at us, clearly heartbroken. That was when I realized Nathan might have been jealous. What a change from the quiet guy he used to be. Looks like he was really trying to prove his charm now. I thought, if he's no longer acting aloof, then what's the point of keeping things reserved? I asked, "Can we hold hands?" He choked a bit. "I'm driving." "Some men can drive with one hand, and they look so cool." He replied seriously, "It's not safe." After a while, when we stopped at a red light, he slowly pulled over and, almost impatiently, extended his right hand, saying, "Hold my hand." As soon as I took it, I felt his palm subtly turn, and before I knew it, our fingers were tightly intertwined. Looking up, I saw his ears were bright red. I couldn't help thinking, wow, he's really learned to take the initiative. After spending the night together, I realized just how much Nathan had changed. He now took the initiative to hold my hand, expressed his emotions openly, was gentle and considerate, and thoughtful in every way. He was practically the ideal man I had always dreamed of. I couldn't help but rediscover that fluttering feeling of a new romance, the kind you get at the start of a relationship. My mind was screaming all night, so handsome, so cute, I just want to kiss him. But I resisted the urge to kiss him, since rushing into it would make me seem too forward. Later, Nathan drove me to the entrance of my building. He hesitated, holding my hand and blushing as he said, "Time really flies." In that moment, I couldn't hold back anymore. I leaned in and kissed his cheek, watching his reaction. Nathan froze for a second, then looked at me with soft eyes. Like a naive little deer, my heart melted. I couldn't help but wonder if Nathan had taken a charming man course over the years, because every little thing he did seemed to hit me right in the feels. We stayed in the car for a while, before heading upstairs. After showering, I drew the curtains and was about to sleep, but then I saw Nathan's car still parked downstairs, lingering as though he didn't want to leave. I called him, asking why he hadn't gone. He replied, "I'm just so happy, I don't want to leave." I absent-mindedly played with the curtain tassels, my lips curving into a teasing smile, and said, "Well, why don't you come up? We just started dating." He hesitated, "Isn't this a bit too soon?" I laughed out loud. From that, it was clear, Nathan was still the same. There was some rustling on his end, and then he said, "If you want, I can come up right now." "I want you to go home," I said. I glanced out the window at his tall, lean figure next to his car and added, "Nathan, see you tomorrow." Okay. In just a few days, I had fallen for Nathan, completely and utterly. My best friend teased me when she found out, "Wasn't it you who said you wouldn't agree to this, now you're all about Nathan?" I couldn't argue because, honestly, it was a bit ridiculous. I'd fallen madly in love in such a short time. She kept teasing, still pretending. "It looks like he's playing you. You're so wrapped up in him, you can't even focus on work." I cradled my face in my hands, sighing, "I'm worried. What if he's just messing with me? What if I fall too hard and he dumps me later? What will I do then?" She said, "Simple, just break up with him now." No way. I rejected the suggestion immediately. If I was going to get hurt, I figured I'd rather enjoy the happiness first. "You're hopeless," she said. I couldn't disagree. I was torn between keeping my head and losing myself. This wasn't like me. But what could I do? The Nathan I'd reconnected with knew exactly how to push all my buttons. If I didn't date him, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. At the end of the workday, Nathan called me. He said there was an issue with new equipment at the hospital, and he needed to deal with it, so he couldn't pick me up. I quickly turned into the caring girlfriend, softly telling him to focus on his work. My best friend shuddered and asked, "Is this how you talk to Nathan every day?" "Yeah, what's wrong with it?" She sighed, "Any man would be a goner. Now I see why Nathan is so devoted to you." I playfully glared at her and said, "Well, I'll talk to you like that from now on, and you'll never be able to escape me." She laughed and cursed, telling me to get lost. I grabbed my bag and headed straight to Nathan's hospital. Since he couldn't come pick me up, I decided to go pick him up. I'd been to the hospital twice before, and this time, I headed straight to Nathan's office without needing guidance. I opened the door, and there was someone sitting at the desk. But it wasn't Nathan. He stood up, surprised, and said, "Summer?" I awkwardly smiled, "Long time no see." It was Nathan's college roommate, Kay. Back when I was chasing Nathan, I'd spent some time getting close to his roommates, so I was familiar to them. Kay walked over, "Looking for Nathan?" "He's still busy with the equipment issue outside." "Something came up." I nodded, unsure. Kay smirked and asked, "So you two are back together?" He kept talking. "I knew this day would come. Just don't dump him again, alright?" He looked amused. "When you broke up with him before, he acted like it didn't bother him, but secretly, he was crying under the covers. If his friends hadn't caught him, we'd never have known." My eyes widened in shock. "Surprised?" he said. "Who would have guessed, right? He always seemed so cold." while Nathan was out. I spent quite a bit of time talking with his college roommate in his office. That's when I found out what really happened after we broke up. It turns out Nathan wasn't indifferent at all, he was devastated. He couldn't eat or sleep, cried under the covers, and even called my name in his sleep. Apparently, he cried himself awake every morning. I was completely shocked. Was this the same Nathan who had seemed so cool and unbothered when we broke up, walking away without a second thought? Kay said, "We tried to tell him to chase you if he still loved you, but with tears in his eyes, he said that if you didn't love him anymore, what was the point?" I was stunned. I can't picture him like that. The Nathan I knew was the poster boy for cold, aloof, disciplined guys. Kay nodded thoughtfully. I get it. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it either. He clicked his tongue. Anyway, that moment? Something I'll never forget. The continuous shocks left me dizzy. I murmured, he really liked me that much? I thought he didn't care, which is why I suggested breaking up. Kay nodded. We thought so too, especially since you were the one who chased him. But after the breakup, we found out, wow. He loved you a lot more than we realized. Kay then filled me in on all the details after we broke up. In short, it was unbelievable. I wasn't just the unreachable goddess Nathan couldn't have, I was his first love, the one he couldn't forget. Even the dental hospital was intentionally set up near my company so he could run into me. Kay patted my shoulder and said, "Take good care of him. He's changed a lot over the years, because of you." I stayed in Nathan's office alone until it got dark. The office was pitch black when Nathan's phone lit up the screen. I picked it up slowly, and his voice was excited. "Got time to come downstairs? I packed some snacks for you." Surprised at how dry my voice sounded, I said, "I'm in your office." There was a brief pause, then he said, "Wait for me. I'm on my way." He really was right there. I didn't even have time to process anything before the office door opened, and Nathan, looking disheveled, walked in, flipping on the light. He glanced at me twice, his voice unexpectedly anxious. "Is everything okay?" I smiled. "What did you bring for snacks?" "Pizza." He really did remember. This was the pizza place I used to drag him to in college. Back then, he'd been indifferent, but secretly, he'd remembered all my little likes. "I'll try some." I opened the box, and the smell was overwhelming. I hadn't had dinner yet, so I was really hungry and ate a lot. Nathan quietly sat next to me. After a long pause, he carefully asked, "You're not about to break up with me again, are you?" I froze, looked at him, and noticed his anxious expression. That's when it hit me when I broke up with him. It was right after dinner. We'd finished our meal as usual, I'd wiped my mouth with the napkin he handed me, and calmly suggested the breakup. He hadn't asked why, just turned and walked away. Did that leave a mark on him? I suddenly felt bad for him. My eyes welled up a little, and I smiled at him, asking, "Nathan, do you love me?" He bit his lip and didn't answer. I said, "Even if you don't say it this time, I can feel it." He blinked quickly, clearly a bit embarrassed, and asked, "What's going on?" I took a spoonful of soup, answering casually. Kay told me all about what happened after the breakup. He stood up abruptly, paced a few steps, turned around, and sat back down beside me, fidgeting. I couldn't help but laugh at how clueless he looked, just smiling without saying anything. He asked, "What did he say?" I raised an eyebrow and said, "Did he cry under the covers?" His face darkened immediately. I leaned in, eyes sparkling. "Did you really cry?" "No," he denied stubbornly. I pouted, "What a shame, you're so handsome, I bet you look amazing when you cry." He gazed at me, cupping my face and saying seriously, "I didn't cry." Okay, I quickly reassured him, I was the one who cried. His eyes flickered. Suddenly, he leaned in and kissed my eyelids gently. The touch was warm. I slowly opened my eyes and made a promise to the gentle Nathan, "I won't break up with you again, I promise." That night, I fell asleep in Nathan's treatment room, lying beside him fully dressed, as we talked about the years that had passed. I asked him, "If you loved me this much, why didn't you say anything when we got back together? You even claimed you couldn't bear being dumped by me, and I believed it, thinking you were the kind of guy who always picked himself up." He said, "You've already played me twice. If I go through it again, I'll be too worn out." What? He hugged me tightly from behind. "You don't know how happy I was hearing you say you'd gotten through all those years without me," gritting your teeth. I thought to myself, no wonder. Before saying that, he was cold as ice, but once he did, he turned as warm as spring. I turned around, hugged him back, and apologized, "Sorry." Then I added, "But you look so serious, it's hard not to tease you." "Only you tease me." He pinched the tip of my nose. "Well, who told me I'm your girlfriend?" He smiled. "That's true." Drowsy, I suddenly thought of Kay and asked, "How did he end up at the hospital?" He said he wanted to follow me. So I brought him in. I casually asked, "So the hospital was really opened here just for me?" He started getting embarrassed, fumbling for words without answering. I laughed. "Tell the truth, and I'll reward you with a kiss." He paused for a moment, then nodded sincerely, "Okay." He said, "I just wanted to know if you're doing okay, and to see if I still have a chance." I leaned in and kissed him, not pulling away for a while. I complimented him, "Nice. You can kiss back now." He blushed, quietly pulling the blanket over his lower face. It was so cute that I kissed every inch of his exposed face, leaving a trail of saliva. He shyly lowered the blanket and, with wide eyes, asked, "Can I kiss the lower half of my face too?" I nodded, and that's how the night turned into one of kissing and affection. Nathan and I officially entered the honeymoon phase. Sunny didn't get it, teasing me with old words. "Aren't you just playing him? It seems like you're the one getting more hooked. Don't go too far, weren't you trying to make this aloof guy fall for you?" I thought to myself, Nathan was already completely smitten. But I couldn't tell Sunny that, especially since Nathan was shy, and it'd embarrass him if people found out. In the honeymoon phase, I couldn't get enough of Nathan and wanted to be by his side all the time. Kay, who had reached his limit first, couldn't stop Nathan, so he pulled me aside. "I know you two are burning hot right now, but could you please be a little more mindful?" "What?" He sighed, mimicking Nathan's tone. "This morning, I went to Nathan for yesterday's treatment report, and when I asked him where it was, guess what he said?" "On the desk?" Kay shook his head. "No," he said, "how did you know Summer made me pasta last night?" I couldn't help but agree. "He's so cute." I asked, "Where is he?" "I'm going to kiss him to death." Kay rolled his eyes. "I seriously can't handle you two." I laughed and waved him off. Eventually, I found Nathan outside the treatment room. He was wearing his white coat, looking sharp and handsome, giving a patient post-surgery instructions. I stood nearby, listening intently, then said when the patient left, "You missed one thing." "Huh?" He was washing his hands. "You forgot to say, don't use your tongue to lick the extracted area. Only you like licking." He said. "When did I?" Then I remembered back when we first kissed, I did have a habit of licking him. I went silent. He walked over, his eyes full of warmth. "Here to pick me up after work?" I exaggerated, "We're causing a scandal." "Why?" "Because we're too in love. And people can't handle it." He embraced me. "Let them suffer. I haven't had enough of loving you yet." I held him back, thinking, Nathan really had changed. But now, it wasn't that our ideal types were aligning more, it was that my ideal type was moving closer to his. He was my ideal type. Forever. The end.